Today on In the Woodyard, we're on a logging job with my brother Ken. Here we go. Here's the wood that we got so far that I got piled up. Ken's already started cutting. He's back in the woods right now, slaying the pieces. I heard a couple trees fall already, so he's probably ready for me to come and start picking stuff up. I'm getting everything ready, so he's in there cutting right now. And I'm going to move some wood. Down she goes. So I thought I'd do a little voiceover here because you don't need to hear over an hour of chainsaw and tractors running. So I just took some of the sound out of a lot of this and kind of describe about what's going on in case you haven't seen the other video we did in Ken's little new woodyard here. He's clearing out an area that he's going to eventually have his woodyard in for his firewood. And he bought this property, I think the particular spot we're on right here, I think he bought it like 12 or 13 years ago. But then the spot up front where we're putting the logs in the piles, where he's making his woodyard there up front, he's got a kind of a paved area. He bought it from an individual that bought it from the county, I think. The guy he bought it from had it for a few years, maybe 10 years or something like that. And the area that he has up front now is connected to this, so now he's able to have it all put together. And I'm going to get a wedge for him. He yelled at me. He forgot to bring his wedge, and I knew there was one sitting over there because he's cutting the logs and he would have got pinched otherwise. So I'm bringing him a wedge. But anyway, he's just limbing here. There's a mixture of stuff in here. There's Scotch pine, which is what this is. And Scotch pine is not a native species. It's invasive, actually. It was originally brought over for, I think, Christmas trees or something like that back in the real early, like 1500, no, not 15, like the 1600s, 1700s, I don't know, long time ago, and it's invasive, so it's everywhere. It's a very, what would it be, very heavy pine, a lot of moisture in it. It's excellent for burning, for firewood, as far as pine goes. There's a lot of sap and pitch in it, a lot of pine pitch in it, so it's a tree that's used for making a lot of different spirits, like turpentine, things like that. Some people made comments about Kenny's stick that he has there. He's had that stick for probably decades, and a lot of guys, not a lot, but a few were saying, oh, he needs to get a tape. Well, we were not cutting timber for, long, huge, whatever, 16, 20 feet, whatever. We're cutting 8-footers. Because this is going for pulpwood. This is wood that's going to be made into boxes that you receive from Amazon. This is going to be made into toilet paper that you use for other stuff. It's going to be made into hand towels. So basically paper products is what all of this is going to be used for. So yeah, he's just cutting away on it, and this woods he's got, like I said, there's a mixture of stuff in there. Scotch pine, there's spruce, there's red pine, there's balsam, there's a little bit of cherry. I think there's some tamarack. He's got a little bit of everything in here, and he's basically just opening up what will end up being maybe a acre and a half, 2 acres. I don't know. It just depends on how much he cuts. Right here, the area we're working in now is going to end up being maybe an acre this year, and then he'll expand it in the future. The spot that he's got here, somebody was telling him that like 50 years ago, this was a hayfield. And judging by the size of the trees, I would say yes. We counted the rings on a few of the trees, and they were between 40 and 45 years. So his stick that he's got there for measuring is a piece of ironwood, and he spray painted a little bit of orange so that he can find it. And he said he usually makes 3-4 at a time, and then when they all get broke or lost or cut, he'll grab another one. But there's been stories of guys that have been using sticks for decades, and it works better than the actual tape that you got to have somebody hold or walk and connect it and pull it and then make logs. This way it's just with them. It's on them all the time. You don't have to walk back and forth to hook it up or unhook it. I don't know. It just works really good. A lot of the old timers use these for a reason, because they work really well. Very limby wood. And then I'm there mainly. I brought my tractor because I'm going to be doing a lot of the skidding. I'm going to be taking stuff out because I do have the grapple. And somebody made a comment on our first video. It's like, oh, I could do the same thing. You don't need a grapple. You could do that with forks. Well, let me ask you this question. When you pick up a pencil, do you use your thumb? When you pick up a fork to eat or cut with a knife, do you use your thumb? When you wipe your butt, do you use your thumb to hold the toilet paper? One of the best inventions ever is a thumb, and that's what this is, a giant thumb. You're able to directly grab a piece, and when Kenny was using his forks, that's what he's got a bucket and forks, and that's it. He used his forks for the first little bit of wood that he did there, and he said it took forever because he was only able to take 1 or 2 pieces, and then because the ground is so rough because of all the stumps, he was losing pieces, falling all over. With the grapple with a thumb, you're able to grab a hold of it and hang on to it. So it works really well. Grapples are awesome. Once you get one and get used to it and figure out how to use it, it's one of the most fun implements you can have. And it's one of the most useful, I think, especially if you're working in the woods. I'm able to grab brush and shove it. I'm able to crush brush with it. But most importantly, I'm able to grab a group of logs like this and carry it out. I'm able to pick them up like this, like you're going to see right here. And I'm not great at this. I'm getting better. When I first got it, I was terrible because there's a lot of little things you got to learn on, when to grab, how to grab. It's hard to see, so you got to kind of learn where your tip is. But I'm able to grab pieces, connect them together, make a little pile of wood, and then grab a bunch. So basically, instead of bunching by hand, I'm able to use the grapple for it. Yes, you could flip them end for end, use log tongs or log hook and flip them over, but why, like Bert always says, why work harder when you can work smarter? Let the hydraulics do the work. Hydraulics is one of the greatest inventions ever, besides the thumb. So yeah, I'm able to just kind of group these together. One of the guys also mentioned in the first video, said, why don't any tractor manufacturers make an articulating tractor that's jointed in there? Well, there are some. Most of the major manufacturers don't make small tractors like that, but there are a couple manufacturers that make a jointed or articulating tractor so that you could come in from different angles, because that's the one thing that's a little harder is with this machine I'm not able to come in from different angles, but I've learned how to kind of come from the side, and you might see some of these coming up. I don't know, maybe there's one right here where I'll come from a different angle, not straight on, and grab it. Like, because you got the stumps you got to work on, you're not able to just come in and grab the pieces exactly the way you want all the time. You got to kind of grab them with the thumb part up on top, and then you can kind of pull them towards you and straighten them out. And I'm basically just trying to bunch these up a little bit so they're kind of all together, not getting it perfect. I'll grab them later. It'd obviously be nice if I had an articulating grapple where I could grab it and then squeeze it and turn it to get the logs lined up just like they do on logging trucks. And coming back to the whole forks thing, I've never seen a logging truck or a logger that works in the woods, whether they're using a skidder, a forwarder, or a logging truck that has a loader on it, that doesn't have an articulating grapple on it. They use grapples for a reason. They work better. If they're out there with a fork, how much work do you think they'd get done? Yeah, they'd get some done, but use the right tool. It just works better. So here I'm able to just kind of gather these together and make a pile. I'm also cleaning a lot of this up so that Kenny can then use his bucket and he can push stuff out of the way. So again, I'm able to go in there and grab anywhere from 3 to 6 or 7 logs at a time. A lot of times I was able to go in on trees Kenny cut down, bunch the whole tree up and take it out in one shot, which is a lot easier than bunching them by hand and then trying to use the forks to get them. The tricky part on this is just trying to keep the pile from collapsing on you. I was able to do an okay job. I did have it collapse a couple times, and I'm obviously trying to keep it as high as possible, because what we're wanting to do is to keep the pile as small as possible as far as length. We don't want it to go way out into his blacktop area there. So a lot of times I'd come in and I would drop a bunch and then gather them again, gather 1 or 2, and then lift them up and put them up higher. Sometimes I would drop them out in front, and you'll see that coming up too. I'll drop them in front of the pile, along the side where the camera is right now, individual pieces or even bunches of them, and then grab them one at a time and stack them up on top, kind of using a technique where you grab the end of it. You'll see it coming up a little bit later here, but yeah, just trying to get them up there and trying to keep them up there. That's the hard part. You got to kind of know what the logs are going to do ahead of time and try to catch them like I did that one and try to drop them in a spot that fits like that. Sometimes they get away on you. And then again, just coming back in and bunching up a couple more pieces and then bringing them out. If this would have been a job where Kenny was cutting popple or really good timber that was tall and branchless, I never would have kept up with him. I mean, no way, because he had so many branches to trim. It just takes forever with pine or balsam spruce. It's just, it's very limby wood. Not great wood for lumber. We did separate some logs out that he's going to get some lumber sawn into. I think he knows the guy. But most of what I'm doing here is just going to be for a truckload. And he's trading this truckload to go to a guy that, there I'm grabbing one from the end. I grabbed an individual one and brought it out. And I'm just kind of setting it up on top, and I'll just shove it into the pile here. You got to be careful that it doesn't fall down and hit the tractor. Don't ask me how I know that, but it can happen. You got to be ready to back up real fast, because it can happen. They can slide off and then flip end for end. I just basically try to shove the pieces. Try to keep them somewhat lined up so when the trucker comes in to make the load, they aren't sticking out all over the place. But yeah, real rough conditions here as far as the ground, like it is in the woods all the time. Forks would be really hard. Just kind of bunching up the pieces. And Kenny was able to get a lot more done having the 2 tractors there. He's pushing tops out of the way and limbs out of the way with his bucket. I did use the grapple a few times. I didn't film all of it, just some of it. But he was able to take a break from cutting once in a while and just get on the tractor. Like he says, he needs more tractor time because he's getting old and feeble and he can't cut all day long like he used to. He says he's only good for like 6 hours or something like that, and then his arms turn to mush. Because you're limbing all day long. You're basically lifting your saw, doing curls all day long, and then walking through the brush and stuff. So he's bringing out loads and making the pile. So like I said, this pile he's going to trade for hardwood with a guy. He's got a guy that's got a contract with a paper mill, and he's able to get rid of softwood, which is what this is, a mixture of stuff. But they can only take wood that is under, I think he said 18 inches is the biggest he can take. It's going to a mill. That's the biggest they can handle. So there are a few bigger butts here that I'm going to be picking up. Not these, but eventually there's some bigger ones going right in front of the tractor that's standing. I think there's 2 of them right there. They're pretty big. Those we end up just dropping alongside. There's a snowmobile trail there. He's going to use that kind of as a buffer to block snowmobiles from coming into his woodyard, because there's a pile public snowmobile trail that goes right through his property there, kind of runs all the way along it. And he wants to make sure they don't come in and do any stupid stuff or steal anything. So he's making a wall of brush and a wall of logs kind of up against the trail on the backside in the front of where the tractor is. You can kind of see the road through there. Well, the snowmobile trailer runs just on the inside of the pines there and goes and connects with a whole bunch of other trails. And he just wants to make sure they don't cause problems. So again, just kind of gathering chunks. You can see it's starting to open up really nice there. Kenny's using his tractor. We're going to do that quite a bit. He had some really heavy leaners and that were almost impossible to wedge over, and instead of using a rope or anything, he just used his tractor. Right there, he just dropped one just as I was coming in, and there he's got another one. He's just gonna, he puts a lot of weight on it with the tractor, and sometimes the whole root was kind of loosen up because the ground's not even froze here yet. And then he'll make his cuts on the bottom, cut his wedge, and then cut his back cut, and then just push it over with the tractor. You can tell that it's soft when he just cuts like butter. The spruce and the red pine and that Scotch pine just cuts so easy. Compared to a lot of times when I'm up at his place, he'll be cutting hard maple and cutting big, 48 inches, and it's frozen solid 20 below. And he's quite a few times he said he's broke teeth and chains just break. They just break when you go to cut because it's literally like cutting cement. And there's a reason why they call hard maple rock maple, because it is like cutting a rock. It's very hard stuff, especially in the wintertime when it's frozen. This pine it's just like cutting soft butter with a hot knife. It just cuts so good. Like Kenny says, your saw doesn't even need to be sharp to cut this stuff. It just cuts so easy. But there you go. And just so you guys know, in case somebody wants to know, that's an old Husqvarna that he's got there. I think he's got a cobbled together plate on one side on the bar cover, chain cover side where the other side is, and it's a 372, which is like his favorite saw. I think he's got 3 or 4 of them, and the 372 is a saw that Husqvarna has made for a very, very long time, and most of the professionals, that's the saw of choice that you see a lot, because it's not too big, not too small, cuts fast, plenty of power, and very dependable. And a lot of them stick with that because they can then swap parts out, which is why Kenny said a lot of times he'll buy the saws that he does. Here I just sped this up. So he dropped a whole bunch of trees, and then I went to limbing on them. Well, Kenny was doing some cutting of other trees down, and then he's going to cut them into the 100 inches or the 8-foot pieces. And so I'm just doing a bunch of limbing because my time on the tractor, I was keeping up with him, and then I got ahead of him, and then I said, hey, just drop a bunch. And he says, good. He needs less saw time. So then I did a bunch of limbing, and then he went to town cutting them down, and then I'm going to come pick them up. And worked pretty good. One more guy would have been ideal, because one guy could have just stayed on the tractor all day, and we could have took turns, and 2 guys could have cut and pushed brush with the other tractor, and it would have been awesome. But we got a lot done. So you can see it's opening up. I think this is our 3rd day here that you're seeing right now, and we ended up 4 days. There's one more day after this that we worked, that we cut. So yeah, we just dropped a whole bunch of trees, and like I said earlier, this used to be a field that they made hay in, and then it just got let go and it grew up into woods, which happens. And a lot of people ask us, you cut all these trees down, do you ever replant any trees? We get that all the time. I have planted about 500 trees a year for the past probably 15 years on my buddy's land, because he wants to plant more pines on his land, because he had a lot of oak, and a lot of the oak was dying off from oak wilt. So I came in and we planted a lot of pines. So it's more of a deer bedding area thing that we wanted to create. Here's a red pine that he's cutting down. I think he's got the tractor on it already, so I think it starts to go here. Yep. And yeah, that's a bigger one. Nice one. So some nice stuff in there, and then just more limbing. So again, I shot a lot of footage here. This was probably 6 hours worth of work, and I edited this down to, I don't know, like an hour and 20 minutes or something like that, just trying to to put the highlights in and try to speed stuff up where you don't need to see every single branch get cut, and just kind of show the progress of the work as it's happening here. And the cutting of these spruce, man, there's just a lot of limbs on them. And spruce limbs are very hard. It's a very dry wood. Pound for pound, like Kenny says, it's the toughest wood fiber that there is. And there's lots of them in here. And a lot of little branches, a lot of dead branches. And somebody else will ask, I should answer this. What's going to happen with all the brush we're creating, the piles and all that? Well, Kenny's plan is just make a wall of brush to keep him separate from the snowmobile trails. And then he's thinking maybe next winter he'll burn them, and then eventually he'll just drop some more trees across the edge of the trails, some low-grade, crooked, nasty, ugly trees that he can't do much with or can't sell. And he'll have some logs laying up along the edges there to keep people out of his woodyard. That's his plan anyway. So back to the tractor work, and Kenny's cutting some more links while I pick up the ones that he's already got cut. Somebody also asked about Kenny's tractor. No, it's not a new tractor. It's the same tractor he's had for a very long time. I don't know, he's had it 6 years, 7 years, not a long time. It's just a little bitty John Deere, 25 horsepower. I don't exactly remember the model number. I'm sure some of you will know. Kenny will know. I don't know which one it is. It's just a John Deere, 25 horsepower. What he paid for it, I want to say $15,000-ish, something like that. And mine is about not quite 2 years old. Yeah, about 2 years old now. It's a Coyote 4710 HST, and it is a 45 horsepower. Kenny's lift capacity on his is like 1,200, and mine is supposed to be like 2,400, something like that. And my grapple weighs, I don't know, 400. So I got about a 2,000-pound lift capacity. I have lifted a couple of chunks of oak that I looked on the charts to figure out how heavy they were. Oh, I'm just tapping the wood in place. I'm trying to get it lined up in the grapple. That's what I was doing there. I've lifted a couple of chunks of oak that I've gotten to the woodyard that were 21, 22 inches, 8-footers, that were red oak. And according to the charts, supposedly they weighed 2,200 pounds, and I was able to lift them up no problem with the grapple and carry them and move them around. There I'm just getting rid of some of the brush, which is kind of nice having the grapple for that too. You're able to grab chunks and move them around pretty easily. I'm just kind of getting the tops out of the way. He can push the branches no problem, but the tops are kind of nice with the grapple because you can grab them specifically and place them kind of where you want. Like I said, if you don't have a grapple and you got a tractor, get a third function to get a grapple. The one that I have on there is a Frostbite. That is the brand. My good friend, old used out friend, Tony, has one also. We bought them together. I think we paid, I'm just going to guess here, $1,600-ish, something like that, for our grapples. Right now they might be $18,000, $2,000, I don't know. But it's a Frostbite, the brand. It is made in Estonia, if I remember correctly. So made overseas, and the guy that sells them, I think he's in Montana. I can't remember. I used to know, but I just can't remember anymore. If you look up Frostbite Grapple, you'll find the guy. Very nice equipment. I felt that their grapples, and Tony thought the same thing, were more heavy duty than most of the other ones we were able to find, especially the Titans. The Titans were made real lightweight. These are made very strong. But the design that we have on these is very similar to what a lot of the companies have now. Very similar design, maybe just a little bit different here and there as far as the structure of it, but the design and the function and the size, very similar. And get a grapple that's the right size for your tractor weight-wise. Here's a rotten tree Kenny's cutting down. You can see all the woodpecker holes in there. This is one he was worried about that it was going to bust on him here, so that's why he used the tractor for sure. If I remember right, it's got a little bit of rot. You can see all the woodpecker holes there. And this one, I think, is one that we ended up cutting the butt off, and we're going to stick it over on the trail to use it for a block because it isn't really a real good piece of wood. Yeah, he just cuts his wedge, and then he just makes his back cut and pushes him over. Nothing fancy. But Kenny's cut wood for a long time. Some people might say he doesn't know what he's doing. Well, he's only been cutting wood for 30 years. Professionally. He might not do everything perfect, but he gets the job done. The trees go down, and he makes money. So he kind of knows what he's doing. He's kind of a no-nonsense guy, just gets it done. Doesn't worry about what people think. Make sure the work gets done. That's it. So he's got a little pressure. Oh yeah, that was a tree that was leaning real heavy towards his tractor right there. It had a real arch going to the top, kind of curved out. So he's trying to give it a little shove, and I think it wasn't cooperating. Oh, there we go. He got it to go. Oh yeah, and he had another little one hung up in it. So yeah, and here's a big Scotch pine going down across the other side. He did a whole bunch of cutting. He blocked a bunch of stuff up. That one he pushed over too. And what's happening here? He's cutting. Oh, he's gonna push another one over. Yeah, we kind of blocked up a bunch of them, kind of in the same area there. And that way, we kind of drop them into each other and get them off the ground a little bit. And then cutting. So I was filming in the back. I had the camera set off to the side. Usually, I run 2 cameras almost all the time, which makes it harder for editing because there's that much more you got to edit. But sometimes one of the shots I'll get won't be any good, and the other one's real good. Sometimes they both are terrible. Sometimes the camera will get hit. I've gone through lots of GoPros. I've broken them up, and I'm going to be switching cameras. Oh, there it is. It was a 3025E. I think that's what I saw the number was on his tractor. Does that make sense? Does that sound right for you tractor guys? Yep, 3025E. There you go. That's what he's got. And this one's got a real heavy lean kind of back towards where it is too. Oh, and this was one that was a double there. He's cutting the backside. So I think when he cuts this one, if I remember right, a bunch of water came out from it. There was a whole bunch of water on the stump. I think it's either this one or that might have been the last day that we're going to be cutting. You'll see there's one he cut like this that it was full of water on the inside. Like gallons of water came out. It was just amazing. Must have had a big hollow spot in the middle. Yeah, this one he said had a real heavy lean to it, so he was double wedging it. For those of you that wonder about his hammer that he uses there, he never carries a hammer. He says, why would I want to carry around a 2 or 3 pound hammer all day on my belt when I can cut a stick anywhere and use it as a hammer, because you only need it a few times a day. So that's what he does. He's done that for years. A guy he worked with years ago said, you don't need to carry a stinking hammer all day. So there you go. So I know those guys, you go, oh, you got to have a hammer, you got to have an axe, got to carry a felling axe with you. No, you don't. Chunk of wood works just fine. The weight on the back of his tractor, he made that, I don't know, probably 4 or 5 years ago, I think now. And I think he said it's like 500 pounds. There you go, tree going down. Yeah, and then there's lots of limbing. Lots of limbing. And as you can see, he tries to kind of have a pattern where he's kind of cutting the same way. Cuts top, and then the other side just kind of works his way down the tree. Fighting the brush, like he always says. It's a jungle out there. Because it is. And I cut a lot of wood. It was a lot of fun. I'd like to do that all the time. That's one of the things on a small job like this. It's still fun. If you had to do this all day long every day, yeah, it would be hard on the body. There's a reason why, there's a reason they invented processors. So you don't have to do all this kind of stuff all the time. Yeah, he's just looking underneath because it's always hung up. And that's what's nice about the branchy trees, is they're off the ground at least. If you've been landed on the stump like that, that's kind of nice too. But there's a stick, left it right where he needed it, very efficient. Looks to the cut, lays it on his shoulder, makes his cut, top and bottom. Or he'll just curve around from underneath like that. Cut the bottom. And then he grabs a stick, walks to the next one without even thinking. It's just automatic. He makes his mark. And because he's cutting pulpwood, like I said, way faster than using a tape measure or using a, whatever they call it, timber tape. I don't know, it just works for him. He said there's guys that he's worked with that came there with their whole real fancy system of having the tape on their belt, and by the end of the day they switched to a stick because guys are out cutting them. And if you're cutting professionally, the more you produce, the more you make. So there's that. And he's just cutting away. Now, some of the butt pieces he did cut for logs, and you'll see some of those coming up later on, because he cut some 12-footers. He is going to get some lumber made from, in case he wants to build a shed or something. He is planning on building a new pole barn, so he said he might need some lumber for something in it, whether it's shelving or structure. He didn't know, so that's why he's saving it. Oh, I forgot to mention, he is wearing my ruby slippers. He's wearing my Hikes boots. There's a good chance I won't get them back. First day he had them on, he says they were awesome. He said so much better than any of the other boots he's ever worn. He said ankle support was incredible. He said in the brush, he said it was by far the best boots he's ever worn in the brush, doing this kind of stuff. Very warm boots. He's got their top of the line. I think it's the Protector Ultras is what he's got on. I think that's what I got. I call them my ruby slippers because they're red. Insulated really nice. They lace up really nice and tight. And they have great Vibram sole for traction. The soles are replaceable. I don't know. There's a lot of guys that have them now. Both Bert and Adam have them now. Tyler's got them now, the guys that helped me. Several other guys I've talked to that have them, they say they absolutely love them. One of the guys I met at the Paul Bunyan show said I think he's got a dozen pairs. The guy that had the really neat Dodge dump truck, firewood truck. I got to check out his collection. He was telling me about. He's got every pair that they make because he loves them. But yeah, really nice boots. I like them a lot, and so does Kenny now. So he's telling me he needs a pair. Whether that means I have to get them or I have to get him a deal, I'm not sure. But the Hikes boots are really nice, and he really liked them a lot. And I know there's a lot of loggers that swear by their, what are they, Whites or Dan's? I don't know. They got all kinds of boots that are like $700-800 pair of boots that you can get reconditioned. I don't know. I'd just as soon wear a good pair of boots and use them for 3-4 years and then get a new pair. But that's just me. I don't like old stuff. I like new stuff. Here you can see he's fighting for that last stick. He's getting right in there and trying to get one more stick out of it, which is kind of a pain when you're up at the top because there's lots of limbs you're fighting the whole time. So there you go. He's cutting away trying to get that last one out of there. Oh, and he's running a 20-inch bar. A lot of people are going to ask, is that a 20 or 24? He likes a 20-inch bar when he's doing this kind of work. He has a couple saws that have 24-inch bars, and he likes them a lot for when you got to reach a little bit if you're cutting bigger stuff, or if you're cutting really big wood into firewood. He uses his 24-inch bars, but in general, he said, in the woods, when you're in the brush, you don't want a longer bar. Because you're doing this kind of stuff, you wouldn't want to be in there with a big 48-inch bar. You want to have a 20-incher. You'll notice if you watch any videos from guys cutting in Europe, where they're cutting trees like this that are forest crop, it's timber that's been plantation type, they use smaller, shorter bars with a smaller saw. A lot of guys I see in Europe, you watch them cutting, they're using a 560 or a 555. They're using either a 20 or an 18 or even a 16-inch bar I've seen guys cut with. So you don't need a big long bar. Because like Kenny says, a 20-inch bar will cut every 40-inch tree down. And where we are, 40-inch trees aren't that normal. That's a Mondo tree. Most of the stuff we're going to be cutting is going to be, the 20-inch stuff. And smaller. But there you go. Look at that. Stump. Bye.